recording an oral history of Joe Peterson, D Company of the 66th Armored Infantry, doing so at the 69th Annual Reunion of the 12th Armored Division, Omaha, Nebraska, July 25th, 2015. Once again, Joe, I want to thank you for agreeing to sit down with me again.
Okay.
To the people watching this eventually, we actually interviewed Joe last year in Atlanta, but the digital camera went crazy and we lost the interview. So we're starting again. So, if you don't mind, let's again start at the very beginning. Now, something very important that a lot of kids hearing this need to understand. When I spoke to you last time, you began the interview by telling me your father had been born a slave.
That's correct. My father was born in 1862, and I was born in 1922. He was 60 years old. And one of the hardest working men you want to see. He died when I was 15. He was 75. My brothers and I became the head of our household. And with my brother's encouragement, I got into college and eventually finished after fighting the war.
Now, you told me that as a kid, your father wouldn't even let you wear a pair of overalls.
That's true. He said, I want you to get in the habit of doing hard work. I want you to get something in that big head of yours. Those are his words. And I don't own a pair of overalls, not even today. I never had a pair.
Now, you told me you were in college.
Yes.
Where were you when the war started?
I was in college. I went to college on a football scholarship, and I was in my second year when I was drafted. I was 20 years old, full of vim and vitality, and stupid too. But with the encouragement again of my older brother, who was 2 years older than I, he told me to pick a subject that I could actually use for my life. And I majored while I was there in college in football. I majored in football, and that was the truth. I didn't have to go to class unless I wanted to, but I found out I need to go to classes because I didn't know a damn thing. And after the war, I went back to college, still majored in football, until I met my first wife. And she asked me very kindly what my intentions were. I said, try to live as long as I can. She said, those are no intentions, those are just things you want to do. I said, well, I don't know. She said, would you go do something to get something in that big head of yours? I said, gosh, that's right. There's the life after school, isn't it? He said, yes. I said, well, there was a little drugstore on the campus, and a young lady who had just finished pharmacy school, and I began to talking to her, and she said, you know what, you might make a good pharmacist. I said, sure, you kidding me? She said, I'm gonna put an application for you. And she did. And I was accepted to the pharmacy school, did well, came out, got a darn good job, and life became a beautiful picture for me. I married, had my son, who was named after my father, who I'm also named after, and he brought nothing but wonderful things into our lives. And 7 years later, I had a daughter who also has had wonderful things for life some foolish things too. And she still lives with me, and she's still doing well with her third husband, of course. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years after she was born, I had another daughter. She was born with a very handicapped condition. The fact is she's only 4'1" in height, with quite a few things that we would consider unpleasant about her. But she went to college. She came out at the top of her class. She's now married. She's given me 2 great-grandsons, whom I love very dearly. One of which finished the University of Indiana. The other one's still trying to find himself, with my help, of course. And during the same time, my son, who achieved wonderful things in his short life, became a member of the Air Force. Also, he went to training for Thunderbirds and became the second black to become a Thunderbird. And he knew his future was laid out for him. All he had to do was stay alive. Of course, the other guy who had been ahead of him in the Thunderbird had become a 4-star general. You might have heard of it. His name is Newton, General Newton. I used to call it Fig. But that time, my son had reached the pinnacle of his career in the Air Force. In practice, it was the time he was trying to perform, and there was a malfunction in the plane of the leader, and the whole diamond went into the ground, which was the end of his life and career, and was the most devastating thing that ever happened to me. Days when I even think about it become very hard, so I think I'll move away from that and tell you anything else you would like to know about my life.
Well, let's talk about your entry into the Army during the war, your training, and what you saw overseas.
Okay, I was first put in a port battalion. If you don't know what a port battalion is, it was the thing that where you're supposed to wear those overalls that my father told me not to ever put on. And I became what you call a checker. Inventory and everything that went up on a ship. The 12th Armored Division came through, and I'm trying to think of the town in France.
Au fait?
Well, it was the port of debarkation for D-Day. When young soldiers was coming, looking much younger, looking like kids, I said, God, if they can go, I can go. So at this time, the war began to turn real bad for the Americans. And they said, I just remember right now, all volunteers who want to go into combat, this is your chance. And I and 5 other guys from the Port Battalion, we went in. We put up for volunteer to go into combat. We trained for about 3 to 6 weeks. And all our training consisted was firing a gun and how to stay alive. I went finished that area of training. I went joined the 12th Armored Division just after they crossed the bridge into Worms. And from there on, I was on the line for 39 days. So that was K ration eating for 39 days. If you ever had a K ration, you know what it is. And they put me as a scout for my platoon, which is, if you don't know, a scout is the guy who's 40 to 50 yards in front of the rest of the outfit to see if there's an object in front of you or to draw fire. On must have been my 8th combat mission that I was out in front and I was hit. But my company took the little town and I came back to Dakota after spending 6 months in the French hospital. And that's when the 12th Army at that time had gone to Austria. Yeah, I think it was based in Austria at the time. And I was there until time for us to come home. Then the bad news came. Someone decided that this volunteer group should not be allowed to go back to America with the division. They were split up, put into, the company was disbanded. It was put into units that was on its way home. Service units, for the most part. That was quite a few, let's say, disturbance about it. Because, like me, most of them are objected to this type of return to America. I did come back, went back to school, and I did get my degree in pharmacy and got a very good job, as I said before. And I stayed in Peterson, VA, which I consider was a very good employee. I spent 29 years working. Went up to become a chief pharmacist. Spent most of my time in Tuskegee, Alabama, working for the VA. And my last 5 years, I was shipped back to Virginia as chief pharmacist, Hampton, which was right across the water from my hometown. And I worked 5 years as chief, and the money was good. I was healthy. All my kids was out of school, and I retired. And I've been retired ever since. There's no place I haven't been for the most part, and there's very little I haven't done. And in a nutshell, that's basically my life.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you again.
Okay.